Hey guys, it's Professor Labs again. Thanks for joining me here on this next beach clean adventure. Like I promised last time, I was thinking about doing a walk down the private beach, but it was so cold and windy last time that I didn't make it. Um, Good news and bad news about today is that, well, I'll start with the bad news. It's very cold, just about freezing, maybe a little colder. Um, and it's still early, but I don't know if you can see, but there's clouds coming in pretty quickly. So we probably only have like an hour or two of uh, unobscured sunlight left, which makes a big difference when it's this cold to have a little bit of sunlight. It really does help warm you up. However, the good news is that there is almost no wind as far as the forecast says and as far as I've felt so far. And as I've said previously in other videos and will continue to say, wind is your worst enemy when beach cleaning. But so yeah, we're gonna take a stroll down the private beach today that tells us no trespassing. Well, this gets into some technical issues about what exactly is trespassing, as well as what the rules are. So I do want to get started though before these clouds roll in, because even since I started recording this video a minute or two ago, I can already see it shifting very quickly. So I want to get out there, start doing some cleaning while we still have sunlight, and then we'll talk maybe a little bit on the way, and certainly once we're back here, look at what we found and talk about that a little bit more. So yeah, let's check it out. So it is getting cold as the clouds come in. So hopefully we get a little bit more time out here, but we'll see. It is dead quiet out on the beach today. You know, a lot of these homes, people come out for the summer. Not really so much going on in the winter, so it's not as if people usually have problems with me coming here to clean. But there's just no one around now. It's pretty sweet. Absolutely beautiful. Usually when I run into people along the private stretches of beach, they're actually thrilled to have me out here cleaning. I've had, people thank me, offer me beers, barbecues, wine and cheese. So typically they're really thrilled that somebody's out here just picking up trash, trying to find recyclables. But they do have a lot of problems with various delinquents who come out here to party because it's not public beach. So sometimes you do get a wary homegoer, but in general they're the nicest people because you're essentially helping clean their backyard. And again, not a ton of people come down here to clean because they think that it's illegal perhaps to trespass here, which I've talked to some of the homeowners and I've gotten all sorts of different answers from them as to what the laws are. I'm not even sure anybody really knows. Most people agree, or there seems to be some sort of consensus that it has to do with high tide marks in terms of where you can go on their beach. But again, if I'm just passing through picking up trash, people don't seem to have a problem with that usually. So, sun is getting covered slowly though. So I'm gonna do a little bit more cleaning, try to fill up a couple bags, and we'll go back to the car, look at what we got. So this is something I wanted to pause just to show you. Get a close zoom in. That is a needle. Yeah, scary. Fortunately, I find quite a lot of those. That's the first needle I found this year, but you gotta be careful. This is why I say always wear gloves, have a picker, have something to dispose of that type of stuff safely with, because last thing you want, as I say, is a tetanus shot Tuesday or worse. So be careful out there, guys. Yeah, so it got pretty chilly once the clouds came out. But luckily I was able to get a fair amount of trash in. I just wanted to mention again, you know, finding needles on the beach, unfortunately, is much more common than you might think. This is the first one I found so far this year. I usually find 4, 5, 6, 7 a year. But we're only in January still, so going into February. But yeah, you got to be really careful with those. It's always best to collect those separately, have, you know, some sort of like safe, secure container to dispose of those in. You don't want those poking through your bags. You don't want to pick those up with your bare hands. So if you do come across those, I just want a disclaimer, be super, super careful with that. And I would even look up, you know, for even better advice on what to do with those. But anyways, that's sort of goes along with what I was saying, how the private beaches, in terms of just, you know, people's houses who live on the beach, you know, they have such issues with people coming down and doing all sorts of crazy things. So you find a lot of remnants of, you know, bonfire parties and that sort of thing, which makes sense, right? You know, empty beer cans, that sort of stuff. But you also find the more nefarious stuff like needles and that sort of thing, because that's where people go, because it's more secluded. It's away from the public part where the constables and or town you know, patrol or whatever, and county police patrol. So good place for people to go and be up to no good, unfortunately. But you know, again, my experience with the people who live at these private beaches is generally very good. I'm reminded of one time where I did have somebody confront me, and he came over and he said, you know, like, what are you picking up? And I said, trash. And he said, wait, shells? And I said, no, trash, just, you know, recyclables, those sorts of things. And he said, oh, okay. He just kind of walked away. So that was like the most confrontation I've ever dealt with by somebody who lives at the houses. And again, most of the time, overwhelmingly, they're super supportive and very happy to see you out there. So, you know, you have to look up your own town codes and town rules and that sort of thing. But, you know, and it's different by state too. So it can get complicated very quickly in terms of what the rules and guidelines are for making sure that you're not trespassing. There's some construction going on, for example, down at the other end of this beach right now, and they have no trespassing signs everywhere, and they have big bulldozer equipment and that sort of stuff. So you will get in trouble if you go there, as an example. So not all crossing over onto private property lines is the same. Having said that, I'm not saying that I do or do not go to those work zones, but certainly not during the week while they are working, because there are cops about and they might get involved, even if you you are up to good and you are trying to do some cleaning, so you can get away with that maybe on weekends. So I would guess. So maybe that's something in the future we could explore, but we would have to wait till the weekend to do that. So I just wanted to show you a couple of the things we found as well, because I think this ties into what I want to do next, which is a roadside clean. I've done those before, and on my way down to the beach today, I mean, I was like, I almost pulled over and said, the hell with it. I'm just going to clean up along the side of the road. I mentioned this in my last video, how so much of what winds up on the beach is runoff from tipped over garbage cans, people throwing stuff outside their car windows. This is something I can show you much more clearly when I do a roadside clean, but rest assured, it's all interconnected, and that's where a lot of this waste is coming from. It's not coming from the beach itself. Some of it is, like the party beer cans and probably a lot of those needles, but a lot of this other stuff, for example, like bottles, are coming as runoff. People aren't necessarily going to the beach in the middle of the winter and chugging Sprite. Maybe they are after their needle fun. I don't know how that scene works, but I see these all along the side of the road, so I know for a fact that they are running off into the creek's running off into the harbor washes that up right over here, and that, if I don't get it, gets taken away to more remote places, goes out into the ocean, melts, gets eaten by fish, causes all sorts of other problems, right? Similarly, what beach trip is complete without hot sauce? Right? I don't know about you, but I don't recall the last time I brought Yi-Pin hot sauce to the beach to spice up my snacks. So this is like vintage seeming, came out of a tipped over garbage pail. And again, plastic is resilient enough where it will make it to more remote places where then it's like, how the hell did this get here? Well, that's how it got there, right? So a lot of weird things like that down the private beaches, because again, they're not as trafficked, so the weird stuff washes up there and nobody gets it in time before it degrades. And we always have our favorite plastic straws. These are pretty hardy, but you can see they eventually do break down. These are terrible, especially on an individual marine life basis. You know, one of the things that I like to emphasize is the fact that, like, I know I'm not going to solve these problems by going out and filling up a couple of bags. And it's delusional to think that you are. There's much larger issues at hand here in terms of our plastic consumption and industrial plastic production. And that's something that we'll talk more about moving forward. This is all also mentioned in my guidebook, which I will link in the description below. So check that out. But yeah, so it's delusional, much like with the massive, anti-straw advocacy to ban straws and banish straws and get rid of straws. It's delusional to think that that's going to solve the problem. However, if you think about individual impact, I mean, these are the types of things that marine life does swallow, marine life does choke on, marine life does die, having in their environment. So it does, help one at a time, as small of a difference as that may be. It is something. It's better than nothing, right? So I always say that, the example I give as well is last summer I saw a seagull hopping around and it couldn't really take off because it had fishing line tangled around its ankles. And it's like, okay, well, what's the solution to that? I'm not sure. I'm working on it. I'll let you know. But me picking up a dozen other bundles of fishing line, that's potentially a dozen other birds that don't have that happen to them. That's a dozen other birds that can go and be part of the ecosystem and the environment in their own meaningful way, I assume. I'm not an expert on ecobiology by any means, but the more I research, the more I learn, and the more you can do little things to hopefully eventually make big differences. I posted an Instagram post the other day, and I said something along the lines of how I went out and I picked up like 17 straws or something, and I just ran the math. I'm not a mathematician either, but I calculated that I forget how many straws I picked up, but 20, 30, whatever. And if everybody in America were to do that, go out, spend 20 minutes picking up that many straws, that would be enough to make a line, I think it was to the moon and back, and then from New York to California cross country like 6 times or something ridiculous. So, um, yeah, it's the same time old argument of why bother voting if it doesn't make a difference, because it might, and it's certainly uh, it's all you can do in some senses is try to do something. So, yeah, lots of weird little things like that. That again, they all do add up when you put them together. So. A lot of wrappers today too, which, again, that's another form of common runoff that I find. So I think we're going to do that next time. We're going to maybe do a roadside clean coming down to the beach and show a little bit more how that's all interconnected. But anyways, so that's a little bit of guidance in terms of beach cleaning, because I know some people, they get nervous when they see private property signs, no trespassing. I mean, the one by me specifically says no trespassing, like no pets allowed. They're more worried about that because people like their animals are animals and don't pick up after their pets. So I think they more just don't want dogs shitting in their backyard, which I understand fully. But yeah, I mean, I wouldn't hesitate as long as it doesn't say anything like absolutely no trespassing. And again, you can always look into like your state town codes and regulations to make sure. I think for the record, that's what I should say for you to do before you cross any barriers. And then of course there's other things like construction barriers. You can kind of see they're already doing some work down there. But yeah, there's other rules as well. If the town's up to something as opposed to just private property. So yeah, check out those rules and don't hesitate to get out there because again, they're less trafficked, those stretches of the beach that are private, by people who are maybe would pick up stuff, right, as opposed to people who are going there to party, do stuff with needles, or stuff just washes up there and there's not as much foot traffic for other people to pick it up. So you'd be surprised what you can find, and we will keep finding stuff in videos to come. So thanks for watching. If you've made it this far, share this with anybody who you think might be interested in beach cleaning. Again, that's one of the things I'm trying to do, whether with my group or everything else I'm doing, is just get more people aware and involved. So please share this with anybody who you think might find it interesting. Subscribe, all that good stuff. And if you have ideas or thoughts, please comment. Please let me know. Love always learning new tips and experiences that other people have had. So don't hesitate to reach out about that. But other than that, I'm gonna pack this in, sort some of these bottles. I think I can recycle a couple of them, which is pretty cool. And we'll get back to it next time. So until then, happy cleaning, and as always, see you on the beach.